Greetings, everyone. For today's lesson, I want us to talk about the different levels of control that exist within narcissistic abuse. Remember, over the past few episodes, we were talking about just how to identify them, the types of narcissistic roles within relationships or family dynamics. And then we also looked at how they play out for different age groups. So we looked at how a child would experience narcissistic abuse, how a teenager would experience it versus how an adult would experience it, right? So for today, the Lord has led me to share the main principle behind narcissism. And it's derived from Mark 4, and also Luke 4. That is where we see Jesus being tempted at the cross. And we find that at that temptation scene, he is basically just having to deal with this demon that wants control. We not only see how control is the core principle behind narcissism, but we also learn who the first narcissist is, and that is the devil. And it's funny because if you look at all the characteristics of the devil, it is literally exactly how narcissists behave. Be it family or relationships, they are the splitting image of their father. And of course, it's written that by their fruits you'll know them. So let's get into it. If you study carefully each response that the devil, or rather each temptation that the devil uses against Jesus, he's desperately just saying, allow me to control you, just allow me to control you, which is so funny because, what? Are you crazy? Why would God, the creator of the universe, the maker of heaven and earth, give us free will, and then you want us to give away our free will and be like, really? Okay. But anyway, across all three instances, we find that he is just so desperately trying to get control. He's just screaming and kicking and trying to get control as much as he can. So God then led me to understand how this control plays out and how it intensifies over time. Because when you're dealing with narcissistic abuse, there are different stages of it. The first stage is when you are still in your elementary understanding of it, which means you're either a child or you have not understood it well enough, right? In your life as an adult. So that is the first stage. Then the second stage, you now have identified it, you've gained your awareness of it and what it truly is, and you are faced with two decisions. You either have to leave, you take a stand for yourself and leave that dynamic, or you stay, which is something that most people do. So let's unpack what happens when you leave and under what kind of conditions do people decide to exit. Normally, and the most frequent and acceptable, it's when it happens in a relationship. And more often than not, society only accepts abuse based on brutality, based on physical brutality. Society invalidates abuse on the psychological, emotional, and mental level. It's just unacceptable. They just brush it off and treat it as a thing of that, you know what, you just have to deal with it. You have to be stronger. You just have to be more sensitive. No, a lot of us are dealing with that kind of thing, just toughen up, But then our tolerance levels aren't the same. Our levels of vulnerability aren't the same, We do not all have the same capacity to deal and manage certain things on the same measure mentally and emotionally. So the first instance would be the abuse in relationships, which is often seen manifested as physical abuse, sexual abuse, and in other cases, murder. It's all about control. And the thing about narcissists, and the reason why they are so dangerous, is you must not you don't ever announce your escape or departure from them. The demons that have hijacked human beings and using them as motels and hotels, those demons are so vicious, and the only way that you can be safe is if you keep them guessing and you become unpredictable. That is how you defeat narcissism. Be unpredictable, because in that way you can plan out your escape, you can plan out your finances and whatever that you need to set in place in order to make sure that your escape is good and you'll be able to sustain yourself, and everything will be fine. But the moment you announce, trust me, they will make it nearly impossible for you to leave. Either they're going to sabotage your finances, they are going, well, in most cultures that dabble in dark arts, they use witchcraft to put you in a state of economical inactivity, because that is another form of financial manipulation. They do that so you don't have any other choice, and it's a thing. This is where today's lesson comes in place, but we'll get into it later. It's a thing of control. So the Lord showed me just how not only are these factors there, but they intensify. So when you are at stage 1, they're not going to be as aggressive with their control, because anyway, their lying, manipulation is enough to just beat you up and fry your brain cells. It's just enough to damage you on a psychological and emotional level. But then the moment you become aware and you start pushing back, then that's it. That's when you are now asking for trouble. So my advice is, when you become aware, don't push back. Of course, this is not entirely possible to not push back. You will push back because our instinct tells us that if we feel that we are in danger, we have to defend ourselves. We have to speak up for ourselves, which is a wonderful thing. But for narcissists, it is a signal that, okay, my victim is no longer as weak as I thought they are, okay? My victim is no longer as, I may not have all the control I thought I had on this person. Why are they reading me like this? Why are they seeing through me? Because remember, the only way through which demons thrive, it's through being invincible. They love hiding behind trees, hiding behind a thumb and people and whatever. So the moment you see something and you call it out, you talk to the spirit. Just like Jesus. Jesus didn't say to Peter, "How dare you say that to me?" Jesus spoke directly to the spirit and said, "Get behind me, Satan." Okay? Because he knows that they love to be cloaked. They love to be invincible. That's how they triumph. So when you see them, then they now force their hotel or motel, which would be the person that does their dirty work for them. It can be a husband, a wife, a family member, your boss at work. They then force that individual that they've captured and hijacked. They force them to turn things up a notch. And this is where it intensifies. Okay, so that was the first part, which talks about people that leave. One thing that I want to highlight about leaving, or what we call going no contact, is that you have to be careful and make sure that the moment you make the decision of going no contact, you have built up your emotional and psychological posture in such a way that you are not going to be easily influenced, and you will not be easily manipulated by society. Because remember, society measures abuse based on brutality. Society wants it to be brutal before they can say, no, that's not right. Until then, you're just crazy, you're just being dramatic, and no one's going to listen to you. So you have to make sure that within yourself, you are okay with that, and you do not need that validation, and you completely trust yourself, you trust your inner guidance and your emotions. You are no longer disoriented or fragmented, okay? Because if you live out of emotional impulse, you are most likely to return to your victim. That's why you find that most people that run away from abusive relationships, let's say, they leave out of emotional reactivity. They have a cycle of just going back, returning back to their perpetrator rather. Why? Because you had not sharpened your emotional standing. Like, you had not regained your emotional strength and clarity, mental clarity. So when leaving, you have to make sure that you lay the foundation of the mental, emotional, and the spiritual posture first. Make sure that it's firm, it's strong, and you are absolutely convinced that you're doing the right thing, and you do not need to be validated, because chances are no one's going to validate you other than podcasts like these and videos where people give advice on such abuse. You're going to be shocked. Like, I recently went on edX to see if there's any short course I can pick up that talks about narcissistic abuse, and guess what? It is not there. It doesn't exist. If you go on edX, I don't know, maybe on other learning platforms, there are institutions that provide courses and programs on that, but I use edX, and when I searched, there was nothing. There's just this mainstream, watered down psychology that they want us to believe, and the vibration on the earth right now and the emotional capacity within everyone's soul right now is at a level that far exceeds baby food. I do not say this to look down on the profession or the teachings thereof, but I just mean to say the contents within psychology are limited. Those that have had psychological therapy, they know. I remember, for example, there was a lady. I'm just gonna share her story to show the full spectrum of what I mean about psychology. So she took her husband to therapy. When they got there, the lady listened to them. The therapist listened to both of their sides and whatever. So the lady had been complaining that the man is narcissistic and gaslights her, manipulates, all these things, right? And of course, their marriage had gone sour and cold because of that. There was now no love, they needed direction. And when they sat there, the man was just absolutely apathetic. He just didn't have a care in the world. And unfortunately, in psychology, they mistaken it for emotional decency. And then on a different session, when they went again, the therapist brought up a topic that was very touchy. And as soon as the husband started talking, he was talking in a way that puts her down and is very manipulative, like the same tactics that he does at home, but he was just doing them like stealth mode and, just trying to keep calm and just be very professional about it and, credible. And this poor woman could not hold back. Like, she couldn't control her need to just break out in rage. And she was like, you see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Every time I bring up a topic like this is how he responds and whatever. And guess what? The therapist said, well, now I understand why you guys needed counseling. You definitely need more help. We should have more private sessions together, or maybe you can come 30 minutes earlier, do separate sessions, and then, you know. So this just goes to show that there is not really an understanding of how of response and reactivity. Like, there's a disconnect between response and reactivity. What is a response is seen as reactivity. And instead of questioning, well, what induced such a response, it is the person who's responding who's the problem. You get what I'm saying? It's like when a boy child says they've been molested by their church pastor, which are stories that we always hear and read of in the news. It's gonna be like, who do you think, like, what's your problem? Go and play soccer with other kids and don't even come here with that rubbish. Do you know who this man is? This is a man of God. This man is running 6 churches in this district. You want to come here and ruin his reputation, and it just becomes like, well, so what, how about me? Am I of no value? Like, do you not care what I just told you? Does it not mean anything to you? So that's how society is, like, conditioned to think and respond when a person raises a concern. That's just how society is. Going back to the 2 ways in which people respond in narcissistic abuse, you either finally become aware and then you have a plan of action to leave, or you stay. Okay, now let's move on to the part that I wanted to come to, which is how the control intensifies. The control intensifies for those that have left. The intensity of it is seen with those that have left, because remember, they have done a complete, like, 360. They just took an unexpected move that the narcissist never saw coming, that the demons never saw coming, and everyone is just in shock that, oh my gosh, how could you do that? What happens is that when a person leaves, and they leave the right way, they do not announce their departure, they do not announce their whereabouts. You being connected to even a single one of them poses a threat to where you are or where you are going, because this one will tell this one. It's eventually just gonna get to the people that you did not want to know in the first place. And more likely than not, people are gonna guilt trip you and tell you that, oh, but he's your ex-husband, he's the father of your children. He has to know where you and the kids are, and to them it makes sense because they have healthy relationships. They probably have a perfect thing going on in their lives, but you are dealing with demons here. They don't understand that you are dealing with something else here. And no matter how much you may try to convince them that, no, please don't tell them, they are gonna tell you, it's okay, don't worry, you're just being dramatic. They can't be that bad. They have to know your whereabouts. Imagine, what if something happens? Guys, I am telling you this from experience. There are people that I told not to tell certain people anything about me, not to give certain people any of my contacts. But guess what? Well, here we are today. I have a podcast on narcissistic abuse because I have been through hell and back. And I told myself that, you know what? I might as well share these things. Because, why not? It can be someone else's survival guide. It can be someone else's tool and whatever. So here we are, thanks to those people. But don't be like me, okay? And many other people that have done it in the past. I know that some relationships are complex, but you know what, guys? It just also depends on your level of understanding, your level of maturity in terms of your mental, emotional, spiritual maturity and understanding, because we will all have different levels of conviction, on dealing with things and doing things. So these are not psychological advices or instructions. If you feel like you need psychological advice, please see your nearest registered psychologist and whatever. If you need medical attention or suicide watch, just follow the regulated systems that are put out there. I am just sharing my personal experiences from people that have shared with me, and just raising awareness and understanding of the different emotional abuse that we are faced with and which we have been dealing with. It's just that we had not had, like an understanding of it. Everyone was experiencing it in their corner, but now more and more people are rising up to say, hey, I also had a similar experience. It's not because it's trending. No, this is not about trend. This is spiritual intelligence, okay? This is something that has been going on, and now it has come to the surface. Because remember, it is written that nothing that is hidden will not be exposed. Everything comes to light. Each and everything comes to light. I mean, look at P. Diddy and everything that has transpired, just from his case alone. And the whole time, Jaguar Wright was seen to be this crazy woman. Oh, you just have a deadbeat career. What else are you going to say about this person? Then all of a sudden, look who's wearing orange now, you see. So it's a similar case with narcissistic abuse. Everyone will call you crazy until they see. But you need to have a certain level of emotional intelligence and understanding and maturity in order to make the necessary moves to save yourself. And those of you that have children, also consider your children, because they need also to be rescued from such a thing. As I conclude this video, so the way in which the control intensifies for people that have become aware and have left is that they will hunt you down. It's like you have a bounty on your head. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, these people will find you, and you just need to make sure you are nowhere to be found. That's how I can best put it. Just make sure you are not found, okay? And the second way in which the control intensifies, and the way they are so sadistic, is that they may not want to kill you immediately, but they will just want to cause havoc in your world where you exist. So they will try and find out where you work, where you live, and they'll just send thieves to come and break into your house. They'll do all these kinds of things to torment you, so that they direct you back to themselves. They want you to call them and say, oh my goodness, please rescue me, and you go running back to the wolf. That's what they want, okay? In other cases, they just do it directly. Covert narcissists are very direct. They don't care. They will just do it themselves directly. They will get you arrested if they want to. They will do whatever it takes for them to regain control, subdue you, have you under their control, and cause you to just be codependent and absolutely needy of them, like you owe your existence to them. And then for those who live in countries or continents where there is dabbling in dark arts, narcissists also use that. And this is a particularly interesting strategy they use because, number one, it's difficult to prove. It's very hard to prove that someone did something to you because there is not any tangible evidence. It's spiritual. And then we move on to how they then superimpose their financial control. Because let's face it, the world we live in requires money. Everything requires money. Whether you are staying in your own house that you built, you have rates, you have electricity, you have water you gotta pay for. Whether you are renting, it's even worse if you are renting, money is needed for everything. You need you need food, you need water, So finances are a tool that is used in abuse. And it is a tool in warfare that can either keep a victim under torment or set them free to live the life that God has destined for them to live. That's how it is. And if they cannot directly affect your finances, they absolutely have to employ invisible forces. And those of you who do not understand spiritual intelligence or have not experienced it, it's okay. If you don't believe it also, it's okay. But those who get it, get it. So they use spiritual stuff to make you financially inactive, to make you financially incompetent, because at the core of everything that they do, it's control. It's to say, I want you to learn a lesson. Wherever you are, you need to starve. You need to suffer. You need to need me. You need to come back to me. Who do you think you are? What did you think you're doing? Trying to live without me? You thought you could live life without me? You thought you could survive without me? Who do you think you are? What did you think you are doing? Wanting to live without me? You living without me? That is impossible. That's not going to happen. So it's that kind of thing. And again, our strength comes from the Lord. That is why I kept reiterating that you need to establish and set yourself firm, root yourself in God, because God will be your strength. God will be your provider. Help will arrive. You will have everything that you may need to survive. So to those of you that are currently facing something like this, my heart goes out to you. I pray that God just send your spiritual helpers to intervene and assist you so that you are on your feet and you do not go back. And just before we close, I want to share a personal experience that I had. So I was going through just a challenging time, and you are not going to believe this. And the Lord called me in to fast. Right? The moment, I'm telling you, I had set out for like a 3-day fast. The first day, a gentleman that I was the first ever narcissist that I dated, came back looking for me, sending people to search for me, sending messages, requesting my number and all of that stuff. And at the time, I was still fragile and uncomfortable. The thing of doing life with God and authentically, you will have to be comfortable with discomfort. You will have to be fine. Just train yourself and tell yourself that, it's fine. That's just how it is. You'll just have to. Look at David. Wasn't it enough how he grew up rejected, unwanted by his father and his family? Wasn't it enough that he was fighting bears and lions? I mean, how much more could he have taken? but still he had to go and sit in the cave, you see. So at some point you just have to be okay. You just have to be fine with whatever and with however things turn out. You just have to tell yourself that, you know what, it's okay, all is well, all is well, it's okay, you see. So at the time I was still very much vulnerable. I was still operating in fear and impatience. I just wanted everything to be over. I just wanted everything to be normal again. And as soon as that person reached out, I then jumped on the bandwagon. And guess what? That took me 6 months to get off of my soul and spirit. That reconnection took me 6 months to get off of my soul, because when narcissists want to reconnect, it's not because, oh, they care about you or, oh, they love you. It is the demon inside of them that is seeking agreement again. It's the demon inside of them that wants your consent. Remember, demons do not have a right over us. They need consent as well as for their access to be granted. We are the ones that God gave authority. We are the ones whom they are subject to. So in every engagement, interaction, there's always a coming into agreement. And nowadays, they are no longer hiding in snakes, prompting people to eat some forbidden fruit. They are using people that they've hijacked as motels and hotels. And when you come in agreement, when you reinstate that relationship, when you reconnect with that person that God has repeatedly warned you to stay away from, that God has severed your connection and all contact, when you in fear and desperation pick up that connection, you are unknowingly and ignorantly coming in agreement with the spirit that is within them. So I'm just going to stop here for now. I'm just going to upload the second part of how control intensifies. I hope that today's lesson has been a blessing to you. I'll see you next time. Keep well.